Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
A couple people sent me this story involving a dog in Louisiana, which does immediately call to mind the lawyer dog. And I think someone needs a lawyer dog in Louisiana also. But of course, now we're talking about a dog in legal trouble. Kind of. A Louisiana man gets a traffic ticket for not having his dog buckled up. From Roderica Taylor, wrote the story for brproud.com, and you can find the story on the internet, but the details are kind of scant. But a man got a ticket for having a dog in the car, and the dog wasn't buckled up. Now, I'll tell you that when I had Milo and Wolfie, at one point in time I had harnesses for them that you could put them in the seat, and then you could attach the seatbelt to the harness, and it kind of kept them in the seat, and if the car was in an accident, it would probably keep them getting thrown too far, but I don't think it was terribly much safer than not having them harnessed in at all. But the question is, can you get a ticket for not having your dog buckled up? So from KLFY, a St. Landry parish man is speaking out, and he's also filing a lawsuit, he says, after he got a ticket. But what's so bizarre is the ticket was for his dog not wearing a seatbelt. The man first took to Facebook about his complaint about a Washington police officer. He stated, "I made sure he knew I would see him in court, and there would be a cold day in hell before they see $1 from me over that." The question the man asks is, how can that be a law that your dog is buckled in? Where does it say that the dog needs a seatbelt? And by the way, that's a good question because it doesn't appear there's actually a law that says that. He said he was in the Family Dollar store to get some things, and he heard his name being called on a walkie-talkie from a police officer. The officer said someone had reported that he'd been driving erratically on the Grand Prairie Highway. Kind of confused, I went to look at the ticket when he gave it to me, and it said careless operations and no seatbelt for dog. So I was like, what's going on? I never heard of it being a law. Your dog has to be seatbelted. And I guess according to him, not only is it a law, but he doesn't even have to see it to ticket me for it because the police officer didn't see him driving. He said that someone had reported him driving. There you go. The man explained he had his dog with a seatbelt in the car, but the officer did not listen. So the man said his dog was seatbelted. And he said, I get laughed at for having a dog seatbelt. You know, you spoiled your dog too much. I didn't think that wasn't a common law. If that was a law, you'd see it a lot more often, he said. And they do sell harnesses. I just mentioned one. You can go online and find a harness for your dog that's designed to work with the seatbelts in a car and keep the dog in that seat. But he says no kind of seatbelt for a dog would prevent them from getting hurt in an event of a wreck because the seatbelt for a human goes against their whole body. The dog seatbelt, everyone I've seen hooks up to their collar or a harness, you're still going to have some injuries. So, he said the way police in this day and age, it's a power issue in my opinion, and I'm scared of what's going to happen to me. He adds that he at first did not want to say anything because he was scared he would have been thrown in jail. And of course, he's worried because he had a dog in the car, and if he gets thrown in jail, what happens to the dog? The dog could go to the pound, as they say. Upset with the citation, he's planning on filing a lawsuit. He adds that the ticket he thinks is nonsense, and now that he's shared with other people, they're wondering, really? Can you get a ticket for that? Definitely not going to try to get seen about behind closed doors. I wanted to go all the way because it's getting to the point where my family, friends, and even the residents out here in Grand Prairie who want to be part of the Washington town, gas being so high like it is, we're going way out of the way to avoid the nonsense out there. I was about to say those exact same words. He said he hopes the story can bring change within the department where there is supervision and knowledge of the law. He says the tickets that he got are $300 to $400. I hope that other people who receive nonsense tickets like this can come forward and say that they did it, and maybe they can put a stop to this. Now, News 10, I'm guessing where Roderica Taylor works, reached out to the police chief, and she had no comment at the moment. Here's the part that's confusing. The man says that he got a ticket, and it says careless operations and no seatbelt for the dog. Now, depending on the state you're in, traffic tickets can happen a couple different ways with respect to what you get handed. And it's not uncommon in some states where a traffic ticket can have more than one citation on it. Meaning that if you were driving down the road and you ran a stop sign and you were speeding, in some states they can give you a single ticket and it'll say count 1, ran stop sign, count 2, speeding. Okay? So he says here that the ticket says careless operations and no seatbelt for dog. And the question is, careless driving or careless operation is obviously something for which you can be ticketed. And was the no seatbelt for the dog listed as a separate offense, or was it there simply to describe why the officer thought there's careless operation of the car? Because I can imagine if a police officer saw someone, and again, he claims the cop didn't see him, but if a police officer saw someone driving down the road and they had a St. Bernard in their lap, and they're kind of looking over the shoulders of the St. Bernard and they can just barely see, I can see a police officer going, that's careless driving. You're trying to drive with a St. Bernard in your lap? Okay? That would be potentially careless driving. So I've seen police officers put notes on a ticket that detail the charge. So I've seen it before where it'll say like driving too fast for conditions, and then they'll write snow, slush, or something to indicate the conditions. And the snow, slush is not being listed as another violation. It's there to clarify the charge. So my question, and I don't know because I didn't see the ticket, is whether or not the careless operation is the ticket and the no seatbelt for the dog describes what the officer thought was careless operation. Because I can tell you that there is no law on the books as of right now in Louisiana saying that your dog must be secured when you're driving. And the reason I know that is I did some research and I found a couple websites that address this. There are some states that require you to have your dog secured, but many of them address it simply about whether you have your dog in the back of a pickup truck. I know you've seen people driving down the road who've got a dog in a pickup truck sitting in the back. And you always worry that if that dog sees something, if it jumps over, it's going to get hurt jumping out of the truck. And number two, might get hit by something after it jumps out of the truck. So there are some laws that say that your dog must be harnessed or secured when it's in the back of a truck. And some states, I think they say it also must be harnessed or secured inside a vehicle that's driving down the road. So the only states that have laws that address this at all appear to be Minnesota, Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Connecticut, 5 states. Meanwhile, somebody had proposed a law in Louisiana to make it the law that you had to have your dog secured or harnessed in some way when driving, and that law got defeated. So that law did not make it through. But I did look and see that some states say that it's simply about a dog in the back of a pickup truck. Others, dog inside the vehicle. And they talk about whether or not the dog is secured or harnessed. Okay? So if this man got a ticket specifically saying, violation, dog not buckled up, well, that would not stand. And I've seen it before where police officers have written things in that were imprecise. And generally speaking, they're supposed to actually write the code violation by number, at least in Michigan, on the ticket itself. So it'll say speeding, and it'll say like MCL 257 point blah, blah, blah. And they'll have the actual citation for the speeding violation, right? And so presumably, if they were required to do that in Louisiana, this is impossible because they wrote dog not buckled up. Well, there's no code to put next to it because it's not a law. It's not a law. So it's a bizarre story, but as of right now, it's been reported a couple times, and it appears at least that the man who got the ticket thinks he was ticketed partly for the fact his dog was not wearing a seatbelt. Louisiana man gets traffic ticket for not having dog buckled up. Yes, it is time to call the lawyer dog and the lawyer dog. Rodrika Taylor wrote this for brproud.com from Washington, Louisiana. KLFY reported it. And Mohawk Man and Scott both sent... Oh, that mic has now been there, 8 years? It's got to be loud, right? I'm sorry. If it's too loud, I'll pull it down in production. But it's been there 8 years. Before that, I worked in radio. My entire time in radio, I never once hit the microphone on the air. I know that for a fact. But then again, in radio, you don't care what you're looking at and so on. But here, I'm actually looking at the camera and so on. But sorry. But Mohawk Man and Scott Bose sent that. I'll see if I can find some more follow-ups on that. If you got information, send it my way. Questions or comments, put them below. Otherwise, talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. The only difference between a good and a bad haircut is about 3 weeks.